Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Tanatastic Talks. Today I thought that we would talk about how to be your own health advocate. I know that it can be difficult at times to know what to do when you're in a doctor's office or when you're preparing for an appointment or when you're in environments with friends and family who don't quite know what's going on with you. They don't understand your diagnosis. So I thought I would just share some thoughts of mine that I hope can help you. So let's get started. Number one is research your diagnosis.
Heart failure could be either infection, coronary disease, or rejection.
Sorry. There's a reason they call it the whiteboard. It's not my rule. What ties both these conditions together?
Like, well, duh, Tanya, like, obviously. Well, there are some people that don't research their diagnosis. They don't know what they have. They'd rather not know. They'd rather just be kind of in the dark because they're afraid of what they're going to find.
Don't put that thing over my face. Don't put me in the dark.
I'm the type of person that would rather know everything that could happen, and if I don't experience the symptoms, then I don't experience the symptoms. However, I'd rather know more than not know, and I'd rather not be surprised as well if things start happening and then I don't understand why, which will add to the anxiety of the whole experience. Will also add to the confusion for yourself and for your family and those around you who are with you when you're experiencing any type of symptoms. So it is important to research on your own through medical journals. Google Scholar is a good way of researching. Depending on what type of chronic illness you have, there are different websites that are reputable that are, that can outline what it is that you have. Number two is if you have questions for your doctor or your specialist, then before your appointment, write them down.
Do you have a question, Kelly?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
If you're prone to forgetting things or have struggle with brain fog or just not knowing how to put things into words sometimes, having some time set aside before your appointment to just think about things that are on your mind, that are maybe bothering you, that you're questioning, that you're wondering about, that you're experiencing. It's all good to be prepared, and that way you don't step out of the appointment thinking, oh shoot, I just forgot to ask this question, and now you're gonna have to wait a month or 4 months or whatever the case is for your next appointment. If you can't write things down, then maybe bringing someone with you who knows the type of questions to ask or knows how to kind of nudge you when you need to ask something. Also, if you bring a family member who is concerned or your spouse or whatever, they have a chance to also ask their concerns and their questions to the doctor or specialist that you're seeing. Number three is if you're prescribed medication, then research it and know the side effects.
You couldn't have knocked?
Steroids. Give her steroids. High doses of prednisone.
If you don't research, you could end up with obviously side effects that you're not aware could happen on this type of medication. It can also help in just knowing what to expect and knowing, like, if you're experiencing nausea, that it's part of the symptoms. If you're experiencing anxiety, it might be part of the symptoms or side effects of the medication that you're on. Every body's different, so I would just take what you hear about certain medications with a grain of salt. I know on certain forums that I'm a part of, I have mentioned myself what I've experienced on a certain medication, but just know that everyone's experience is going to be different. A medication that works for another person may not work for you, and so just be careful because our systems are all different, and that's okay. This leads into my next point, which is number four, know your body and know your emotions.
According to a recent study, the physical act of smiling can improve your mood. I suggest we give it a shot. Now you all try. Big smiles. Bigger, bigger.
This is also important when you're on medication, getting adjusted, that you know what you're feeling and what you're experiencing and write your symptoms down. Last year, I was on 2 or 3 different medications that did not work for me at all, and I spent a good part of the year up until last August being on medication that wasn't suited for me. It's also important to talk to family members and let them know, if you're comfortable, about the medication that you're on, because they will also be aware and be able to tell you if you're acting a bit off, or, oh, this is not like you, you're acting this way. It could be the medication. In my case, it was heightening all my symptoms. Then I started to experience a lot more panic attacks and difficulties with anxiety, and I was a total basket case, and I thought I was going crazy. But in the end, my mom was very concerned and mentioned, like, this is not like you. And I knew at the back of my mind that it wasn't like me to be experiencing this at that level. When I went in to go see my neurologist, he took me off the medication. And honestly, within 2 weeks, I was feeling way better. Just make sure that you know what you're like and what your baseline is before you take a medication. And then after you're on a medication for a month or a few months, see where your baseline is now, because that will give you a good indication of maybe perhaps what the medication is doing to your system in terms of how it interacts with your body, with your brain. Number 5 is stand up for yourself.
You're through messing with me.
This, again, may be common sense, but honestly, it's important because you have to just be able to stand up for whatever it is that you're experiencing and whatever it is that you're concerned about. You are the only one that can speak to what's happening in your body. It's important to just, be able to be that advocate and to empower yourself to talk about these things to whatever medical professional is on your team. Be confident in those appointments. Number 6 is don't let people talk down to you about your diagnosis.
I'm Vince McMahon, and you will treat me with respect.
And when I mean people, I mean friends or acquaintances or people online, Facebook friends, acquaintances that you haven't seen in years who are not actually really necessarily your friends, or just people that you meet that think they know anything about your diagnosis when they have not at all. If you've researched your diagnosis, then you probably know obviously more than the person that is trying to talk to you online about something that you could try. I mean, you can take their advice with a grain of salt. And if someone is pestering you about something, just like let them talk. Or if they're really bothering you, then just ignore them. But if it's someone like a friend of yours that doesn't understand your condition at all, but is saying things to you or making fun of you or assuming things about you and not asking like what's actually going on with your symptoms and your condition, just take the high road, but just stand up for yourself. Like a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to really stand up for myself in the way that I can now, because I've lived with my condition for a year or longer now. These points kind of all flow together. I know now how to stand up for myself, how to just stand my ground and know who I am with my condition, and to be able to educate other people who don't know anything about my condition, and to feel confident that I'm doing the right thing by protecting myself. I hope that gives you some insight and some ideas for you if you're wondering, how do I deal and manage all of these things that I'm feeling and appointments with doctors and specialists. And I'd also recommend to become friendly with your pharmacy team. Often they will know a lot about the medications, and if you inquire with them about your medications that you're on or possible side effects or interactions, they'll be able to help you a lot. I know in my life, I have one pharmacist in particular who has really, really helped me, who's been through this journey with me through the whole thing with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome and functional neurological disorder. And he's actually researched these conditions for himself, especially FND. that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. If you have yet to subscribe, then subscribe right down there. We are almost at 260. That's amazing because last weekend we just passed 250. So we're almost there. We're one subscriber away. All right, I will see you next week.